Alright, quick and dirty. Credit skip tutorial starts here because the path you take through this tunnel impacts how far into the final room Nasty is going to be standing. So have a line picked because that is going to impact how you go about the second step, which is determining a visual reference on the floor for where you need to stand. Now, why do we need to stand in a certain place? It's because Nasty has two different attacks. The first is a little laser blast. The second is a crush animation, which looks like this, right? Oh no. Anyway, we'll be using that crush animation in order to get up above the arena. The way that works is we take a shot from the scepter, right? The green laser shot. That damage gives us invincibility frames, and we use the invincibility frames to get in and on top of Nasty. And the transference of the momentum from when he starts trying to crush us is what sends us up into the sky above the arena. So, you want to find a place on the ground where he will shoot but not crush, right? And so if you get crushed, just short hop and just move back a little bit until he starts shooting, and then just make a note of where on the ground Spyro is when that happens. For me, it's about here. Yeah. So, once you've done that, you just do credit skip. Easy, done. Tutorial over. No. Once you've done that, this is going to annoy me. Stop shooting at me, please. Okay. Once you've found that threshold where you can go no farther without being crushed, and you've made note of that in your head, right? So you can approach that at any time. That's critical. You want to take damage while neutral on directional input, because if you're moving while you take damage, I guess that wasn't the best example. You see how I move forward a little bit? If you get up here, if in position, and you're moving while you take damage, there's a chance that you can just get flung forward over the line, and he'll start his crush animation early. You don't want that. So, be neutral on directional input when you're in position and when you're taking damage. But while you're taking damage, and while you're waiting for him to start the shot, I guess. So basically from the point you're in position and you're waiting on him to damage you, through when you're taking damage and need to move, you want to be correcting the camera position. Spyro moves relative to the camera position. So if you push forward and Nasty is centered on screen, you're going to move forward into Nasty. So you want to put him at center him on screen as much as you can. In the time while you're waiting to take damage and also taking damage. Once you've taken damage and you're neutral on the directional input while taking damage, it's important. Once you're in the damage animation and Spyro's flipping, that's when you want to start moving forward. You want to just start pushing forward on D-pad or analog, just holding forward into him, and you're not going to let up until you're in the air. You are just, from that point forward, you are moving forward. Everything else is in your jump and charge glide from that point. But for practice, I would just come up, find that position, take damage, and just move, just walk forward into him. You'll be safe because you have iframes. So just practice taking damage and walking out of damage. Just getting the timing for that down. Just like that. Then add in a jump, right? You want to be taking about a half step forward, just a little bit, right? It'll look a little bit like that. So, take your damage, take your little step forward, and jump toward him. Too far back here. Yeah, if you're too far back, you run out of iframes. That's how tight it is. It's a very tight trick in that regard. Run out of iframes and you get crushed. So you want to be right on that line. Up here should be good. Yep, perfect. So, walk forward into him, do the jump, and at the peak of the jump, do a charge glide. Now, I know that charge glide can be kind of a wonky input for people. A lot of people don't do charge glides, and in fairness, you don't really need a charge glide for the majority of a run, right? It helps, it's quick, but at the very least, A lot of people will roll their thumb. They'll roll from like the tip to the center of their thumb for a charge glide, and it'll look a little bit like that. You can kind of see the charge come out. And that's a perfectly fine way to go about charge glide for basically every application, right? But a much faster, like snappier charge glide will go a very long way to getting a good proxy on nasty. So if there's one charge glide input that you are absolutely going to bear down and just rip across the controller for, I would recommend that it be this one, because doing it can save you almost 3 minutes in 120, right? So, at the peak of your jump, just go for the best charge glide that you can, right? Just rip across the inputs, just boop, boop, boop. I use the tip of my thumb and I just sort of reel it in back toward my palm really quickly. Right, I know some people will also sort of hold their thumb straight and sort of put it in their wrist and just slide the tip of the thumb across. That's probably a little bit more ergonomic. And while rolling the thumb from like tip to joint can work, you find it a little bit harder to time. So get into position. Take damage, walk forward, jump, charge glide, is how it goes. Now, once you're in the air, it's a bit of an improv act, because you can get 100 different proxies off of nasty, right? So, depending on whether you're high or too low, you might need to turn immediately if you're low, right? Or if you're too high, you might need to glide out to the left a little bit and bleed off some height before cutting back in. The inverse is true if you're doing it counterclockwise, though most people are doing it clockwise. It depends on what's comfortable, though. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're aiming for one of these corners in this back wall. You'll notice this indentation back here, right? There's a corner right here and a corner right here, and that's sort of where you want to aim, because that makes the distance through the floor that you're going to have to traverse to nasty shorter, and puts nasty between the wall, the back wall, and the goop where you're eventually going to want to drown, right? So that's where you're aiming. Those are the points at which you want to aim. It's either this corner or that corner on either side of the back wall. And a critical piece of movement for the turnaround that you need to be comfortable with is the flutter. And you see, if you just pull back and hold, Spyro will enter a fluttering animation. And if you hold it there, he'll just sink like a rock, the way you just saw, right? But if you let go of directional input, as soon as it comes out, or anytime, really, just anytime you're in that animation, you let go of the directional input that's working against Spyro's forward speed. In this case, back. If the camera were the opposite direction, like this, it would be forward, right? Because again, all relative to the camera. So as soon as you let off of that, he's going to pick up speed again and resume his normal glide animation and speed, right? So you want to be in the habit of getting a flutter just with as short of an input as possible, right? And then as soon as it comes out, let go of it so that he comes back up to speed. Now what that's doing for us is putting Spyro's head higher up on his model than it would otherwise be if you were just in a standard glide animation, which means that when we let the flame out, it's going to come out higher up and more easily enable us to tag the bottom of Nasty's feet with a flame, right? Which is how the trick works. You glide through the wall, tag his feet, and then drown, and that gives you enough time in order to collect all the gems from his death animation, but prevents the credits from playing. Therefore, skipping the credits, giving you everything, you can move on, right? Big time save. So, be comfortable fluttering and letting go of it, right? Now, the timing when you get through that wall, I see a lot of people try to flame and flutter at the same time. They'll be going to them and they'll go boom, like that. And that's not what you want to do. You want to postpone the flame a little bit. You want to flutter, let off, and then flame. A little bit like that. Flutter, let off, so he's picking up speed, and then flame. All right, so it's a little bit of a delay on the flame. I see a lot of people who will get through the wall completely, and underneath the arena and then try to flame, and I find that usually winds up being a little bit too late. You want to, at least I flame. I don't know that this is the perfect way to do it, but I typically flame right as I'm passing through the wall. So I'll flutter right before I get to, like, the edge, right before I get to this wall right here in the floor, just this corner. I'll be coming in. I will flutter and then let off so that I'm moving through it with speed, and then I'll flame right before I cross the threshold. So let's see how that looks. Holding camera button, sort of chunking the glide, flutter, flame. I was a bit too far left, but it wasn't bad timing. That was just aim. Let's see if I can't do it again. Doop. Up. Hold the camera. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now it's a little bit low there, and that's fine. You're aiming to get anywhere from, like, Spyro's, like, chin up through, like, the top of his head, like, but not quite the crown or top of the horns, through the floor polygon, right? When you're coming through there. A little bit low can work. The higher you are, the better. Ideally as high as you can be without actually impacting the edge of the floor with a part of his hitbox that's going to cause him to flop. But as far as doing the turnaround, just anticipate that you're going to need a lot of successful proxies and a lot of attempts in order to be able to sort of parse where he needs to go. So just toy around with it. You'll be fine. But that should be about everything. So thanks for watching.